There we go.
StreamYard didn't like me for a second, but it finally started the stream. Welcome. I would say we had technical difficulties, but we didn't. I was just talking about nonsense. So we're here now with our weekly live show. And don't forget to get those questions in. The questions, very important. We have to have questions because that's why we're here. We're here to answer your questions. I especially learned that this week. I learned that if I just do Dynasty content, people will actually watch it. Oh, I couldn't have ever guessed that. You would think I would have been smarter than that. It took me a year and a half to realize this. So not good, but it's even more proof that trying to do any sort of substantive content live doesn't work. Because immediately in one video that I just kind of put together on a whim was my best ever video. So that tells me that people for substantive, like planned content want it to be pre-recorded and scripted, which is fine. I enjoy, I had a great time making it. I had a great time making it, a great time doing it. It was a lot of fun. But these shows, we will be focusing on the people's questions. So the people will have questions. During the off season, I'll probably get some advanced questions for the show because I know it's not going to be as much outside of the season. I'll get some advanced questions. We'll talk about the people's questions. I'll title the show some nonsense for SEO, whatever this Dynasty buys and Dynasty sells. It's great if we talk about that. But if we don't, I want to talk about what the people want to talk about. So whatever that is. I like answering all types of questions. As long as it's about fantasy football, we can talk about it. We can talk about redraft. We can talk about Dynasty, whatever you want. But if you want to ask questions in the topic, that would be great. I love that. Dynasty buys, Dynasty sells, Dynasty trades. I mean, that's what we're going to focus on as we start to move into the off season, right? I mean, in February, that's what we got to talk about. We got to talk about those trades, startup drafts. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Dynasty strategy. I'm going to try to get into that, cover that a little bit more, especially if you have questions. So just whatever you want to talk about Dynasty related, we're here. And that's what we're going to do on this show. And then on the rest of the shows on the channel, you'll see what the kind of thing like I did this week. Almost 1,000 views on that video. And I appreciate everyone who watched it. It was a Dynasty stash video. I'm probably going to have one on Dynasty buys coming up. Maybe one on Dynasty sells, Dynasty risers, Dynasty fallers. Not saying that this is the most creative or exciting content, but that's what people want. People want these very simple things. These are not complicated concepts, but we see from the SEO and the demand and the search volume that that's what does the best. So we'll deliver that content in our recorded content, or we meaning me, because that's all solo. Here we'll answer questions, mostly just stalling. So questions come in the chat.
Tyler, I was kind of disappointed in your top 5 stashes that you didn't include Travis Kelce. He's got a great stash going on right now.
What?
Mustache stashes.
Oh, it was so funny.
It was a terrible joke.
It was so funny that I forgot to laugh. I didn't really. It was very interesting. Thank you for sharing.
I feel like the 10 people watching us have to know that I have some type of blackmail on Tyler at this point because he keeps inviting me back on the show, and he can't get rid of me. He can't kick me out. He gives me like a 2-week ban. I come back and I'm here just to tell him terrible jokes and make him giggle to himself about, oh my gosh, I can't believe I had to keep co-hosting with this Patrick guy. Terrible co-host. Can hardly read a question. Can't even read English. Can't pronounce words. Forgets players' names. Why is he even here? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. The people might be asking that very question. I'm kidding, of course. Well, maybe you could read some of the questions then.
Read. All right. I passed 7th grade. I can read.
Oh, you got it.
I will say that's something that you have not in common with most Washington Commanders fans. I don't feel like most of them passed 7th grade. It's very, very rude they were to me on Twitter. Very rude. They consistently insist that Sam Howell is a franchise quarterback, and they are participating in a group delusion. I very much would enjoy that. A group delusion. I think I need that sometimes, but their group delusion is so entertaining.
I think my favorite thing is when fantasy X or fantasy Twitter meets up with NFL real life fans of teams.
Well, I was speaking as real life.
It's always chef's kiss. People missing the point.
Yeah.
No
I wasn't really making a fantasy take there. There was no fantasy take in what I said.
Well, your dynasty take of that, you don't believe Sam Howell will be a quarterback for the team next year.
But there was fantasy football was not mentioned or talked about at all. It wasn't. Mm-hmm. That was me stepping out of fantasy football Twitter and going to NFL Twitter. So I get what I deserve, I suppose.
All right, I think that we got a redraft question here.
This has to be,
Trade Brandon
Ayuk with this question
for Justin Herbert. With Lawrence most likely out, at least for a few weeks, I need a win to make the playoffs. Best on waivers is Minshew or Jake Browning.
I mean, is there really much of a difference between Justin Herbert and Gardner Minshew?
Or Jake Browning?
I don't know. The last 2 weeks, not really.
Not at all.
The ball. Minshew's thrown the ball 40+ times each of the last 2 weeks.
We can't do this.
Good for fantasy.
We can't do this because if you have to win in the playoffs if you make it there. Making it is great, but if you have no team when you make it there, you're not going to win. So trading away Ayuk, you might as well take your chances on making the playoffs. And then if you happen to make it, you'll have a better team and a better chance of winning. This is not going to help you win. You're not going to win in the playoffs by trading away one of your best players. So the answer to this question is no. And I also received this question in a DM, and my answer was no there as well.
Yeah, especially with like trading for Herbert. That's not really like a.
No, Herbert has been horrible. Horrible.
Herbert's been bad.
He's been horrible. I mean,
bad for fantasy.
Let me rephrase. He's been horrible for fantasy. I'm not going to say it's all his fault because he's actually played pretty well. But for fantasy, he's been horrible.
It's not his fault. Quentin Johnson can't catch the ball.
And Austin Eckler is totally washed up. I mean, that's not his fault either.
Yeah, he's done.
It's ugly. It's ugly. Just him rushing the ball right now.
You could run a 40-yard dash faster than Austin Eckler. It took so long to get down the field. I mean, I felt
it's definitely not the 450-pound guy. He's not talking about me running as fast as Eckler.
Well, that would I don't know. When was the last time you ran a 40?
You're talking Patrick. Sorry.
Hutch, I feel like you probably ran it recently. You still have gym class.
No, yeah.
My last 40 would have been like 2020.
I don't remember last time I ran up. The last time I ran a 40.
I played football on Saturday, so I didn't run a 40, but I was in cleats.
I've been in like a rec flag football with my little brother, and we play it's been like all year long. We've been going through multiple seasons, so I've been playing, but I haven't run a 40 in a while. But I think the last time I ran, I was like 5.5 to 6 seconds.
That's slow.
I think I was in that range. It's not fast. I wasn't that fast.
Maybe you have to come race me sometime.
Maybe I should.
That would be fun. We could film it.
I'd be
sure
so down.
Raise some money for charity.
100%.
Oh,
or just for your bank account.
Oh, I don't care about that. To be charity. I mean, we raise money for charity. No, I mean, I'm not going to do something like that for personal profit. I would never. This is not the person who said he would start an OnlyFans all the time. Someone asked Shea Manila if he would start an OnlyFans. I thought that was interesting. Maybe I should start an OnlyFans in that case, if there's demand for that.
So I think I realized my goal for tonight. Read questions, make Hutch break character, and make Hutch laugh. And right now I feel like I'm doing all three of them. And I think Kevin wants to know, though, is Jordan Love a sustainable QB2 next year?
Yeah, what does that mean?
Well, I don't know what break character means.
Just like crack up, like laugh.
As someone who's met Hutch in person, he's pretty similar off the show to on the show.
Yeah, I don't put on a face, man. I don't put on a mask anywhere. I'm kind of myself everywhere. I don't really put on a mask. I tend not to.
Yeah, I'm a little different off the show, but I think I'm meaner off the show in general. I think I'm nicer.
I met you in person. You're great. You're
really nice because I like you.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I like you.
I didn't see you with people you didn't like.
Yeah, well, there were quite a few of them there. I just didn't talk to them.
This got visual. Yeah,
I tried to avoid them.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing anybody I deliberately did not like there. But
yeah,
that
list is a lot longer for me than it is for you.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah.
I haven't been in this industry too long. I haven't made many enemies.
It's a hard word to say.
Hard word, yeah.
Don't hurt yourself, kid.
All right, what am I
we
talking
go.
about?
Yeah, hold up. We got
so
Jordan
Patrick,
Love,
you're not
right?
keeping me on task.
I know. I'm sorry. Yeah, we're not. Yeah, Patrick.
On-
you're
No,
fine.
task.
it's Patrick's
So-
fault, not my fault.
It is my
Yeah.
fault. So like about 3 or 4 weeks ago, we were having a conversation about Jordan Love and how there's no way the Packers would have him be their quarterback in 2024. Is he earning that QB2 spot for fantasy next year?
Oh, absolutely.
I feel it's really hard for them not to give him another chance. I mean, he's probably going to get another shot, another year at least, if not more. If he continues to prove himself, he's going to be the Packers quarterback.
I mean,
for a
right now the
while.
Packers are a
but-
playoff team.
Yeah, right now they're a playoff team. Like they're not going to have the space to
I
draft.
mean,
a
I think if
quarterback.
I had
That's
told you
not
3 weeks
possible.
ago that they would play the Chargers, Detroit, and Kansas City and win all 3 of them, you probably wouldn't have believed me. But that's what happened, and that's
Yep.
probably enough. I mean, that,
great.
and he played well in all 3 games. That's probably enough that he's going to be the not they're bringing in another quarterback to compete with him, not they're interested in looking in another direction. Like he's going to be
he's their
the
guy.
unquestioned
Yes,
starting
he's their guy.
quarterback next year.
100%.
And they're probably going to give him some, because they did that little negotiation of the contract. I wouldn't be surprised if they have some sort of extension, kind of meeting in the middle of a high-end quarterback extension and a middling quarterback extension. It'll probably have like something like 40 or 50 million guaranteed and essentially lock them into him for probably 2025. So 1 additional year.
So I think right now it's he's at like 21 mil for next year.
Like
but it's not fully guaranteed.
I don't think they've seen enough to give him like a massive extension.
No. Even if he plays the way he's been
to,
playing for the rest of the year, that's not enough.
Like I think they've seen enough to be
Needs
comfortable committing to 2024 and 2025 with the idea that if it's really horrible, you can always just move on anyway. But like, I think they'd be comfortable giving him a pretty hard 2025 commitment. But of course, if you suck, that commitment is not. It's not going to be like 50 million of commitment. So the commitment is not going to be something that they can't move past. But I do think, he's gaining value for sure.
So we have some breaking news. We have a super chat from Red Hawk. Do. What's up, fellas? Pick 1 PPR. Javonte Williams, Zach Moss, Garrett Wilson. Also, who's a better stream for McBride? Okonkwo, Henry, Everett?
Or
likely.
Oh,
likely for sure.
I read that as
the other ones are not an option. So likely, even though I'm low on him compared to most.
I'm not. Yeah,
the answer is definitely likely. And then for the other one, I mean, it's Zach Moss. I mean, Zach Moss is not. Yeah, 100%. I have Zach Moss at RB5 this week, and I'm lower than consensus at having him at 5.
Yeah, I mean, there were most rankings I saw had him in the top 5 already last week in his first week with Jonathan Taylor out. I mean, he was locked back in. Last week he didn't do too hot.
Funny. Actually, last week I had the ranking closer to accurate by having him lower.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because the matchup was bad, but the matchup is not bad this time.
7 fantasy points. No, this week they played
Cincinnati.
Shoot. Yeah, they play Cincinnati. Yeah. That's who. Yeah, that's gonna be a fun game. That's actually, I think that could be a really fun game with Minshew and Moss, and then the Bengals offense.
I think it'll be a lot of fun. I mean,
that could be a really fun game.
Gardner Minshew is someone who's been interesting to me. I mean,
he's
I don't
he's
know.
Been a top 12 quarterback the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, he's been good. Like, it's strange. Like, I don't know what's going to happen, but I do think he's proven that if he gets in this situation again, that you can count on him. I don't know. I mean, given that there's been so many quarterback injuries, he's probably going to demand like an $8 to $10 million salary next year, even if he's signing as a backup.
Likely, yeah. With how
I think we've seen that skimping at backup quarterback is unwise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think we're up to 44, 45 starting quarterbacks so far this year? For the 30
it's been
teams?
ridiculous. There's been so many.
It's more than that. I think it's over 50 already.
Ridiculous. It was at 50 like a week or so ago.
It's 50 something, yeah. No, I think Gardner Minshew could easily re-sign with the Colts just for more money.
So speaking of someone who has benefited from Gardner Minshew, Michael Pittman, is he the real deal? High-end wide receiver 2?
In Dynasty, I have him at wide receiver 18. So Sure. I like Michael Pittman. I do think that I have some concerns, but I think he's going to be back in Indianapolis.
I would agree. Yeah,
I think that I don't know if they're going to add any significant wide receivers. They're certainly not going to have enough money to sign another expensive free agent and give Michael Pittman a franchise tag or a long-term. Like, they're not going to be able to do that two times in the same offseason. So that's not going to happen. Could they draft someone else? Maybe, but I mean, Alec Pierce has been coming on lately. Josh Downs is fine. I don't know that wide receiver is like a massive need for them.
No, it's not. It's not a massive need, but when you look at when you're wanting to develop a young quarterback in Anthony Richardson, why not give him all the weapons he can handle? And especially, I mean, their tight end room is also disastrous too. I mean, like their tight end room is
bad.
I mean,
if Granson was healthy the entire year,
tight end, they don't have a guy.
Well,
like, I remember seeing a stat.
Woods.
Yeah, it was supposed to be, but I remember seeing a stat like a couple weeks ago. Like over the last 7 weeks, the tight end leader for the Colts has had 7 targets.
But they don't use the tight end in this offense.
They don't use them. They just don't have a guy. And I wouldn't be surprised if they went after somebody.
That wouldn't surprise me. I mean, we'll see. But yeah, I mean, Michael Pittman is absolutely the real deal. Indianapolis is going to retain him. And I like him.
He's a great player.
I think we can all. Sorry, Hutch.
Oh yeah, I mean, I was just saying he's a great player, and he, with the frame he has, with the build he has, he's just a trustworthy wide receiver, especially when you come with Anthony Richardson back in from injury next year. He's gonna be looking for that
better.
Option.
You're better off with Gardner Minshew.
No, you're for fantasy, yeah, but
yeah,
Anthony Richardson's is gonna lean on him a lot.
So
that was not the case, by the way. Like, I know that was not the case
when he came in.
Well,
yeah, it wasn't. That's true.
It wasn't the case at all. Anthony Richardson spread the ball more evenly. This leaning on Michael Pittman is a Gardner Minshew thing.
True.
So that is concerning. That is a little concerning, but not to the extent that it's going to hurt Michael Pittman significantly. But ranking inside the top 12, like I have him ranked this week, I wouldn't expect that next year.
No.
Blake follows that up with he traded Cooper Kupp away to get Michael Pittman.
Yeah, I would. I think I would rather have Michael Pittman for the rest of this year, and then Michael Pittman is 4 years younger than Cooper Kupp. So, yeah, I mean, there's no. It would make no sense to have Kupp ranked higher.
Mm-hmm. Scribble says he can't with all these QB injuries. Just burn this year to the ground.
I do think there have been more quarterback injuries this year.
Yeah, there have been a ridiculous amount of injuries.
Who are we trying to buy for Dynasty for 2024? Just one quick name.
Am I trying to
buy?
Now?
Yeah.
Tank Dell.
Right now. Man, that's really, really tough. I think
there's a lot of wide receivers that I think are undervalued. Tank Dell because he's hurt. Jackson Smith and Jigba is undervalued.
Yeah, JSN is undervalued, 100%.
I think that Zay Flowers is slightly undervalued. Actually, pretty much all of the high-end wide receivers, I think, are undervalued compared to running backs in their range. Because, like, even the best of the best running backs are not really getting it done. Like, Jahmyr Gibbs is great, but he's not giving you what you want if you picked a running back in that range. Like, it's not what you want if you picked a running back in the first round of a Dynasty startup, which is what his cost was recently.
Well, I mean, not like the first half of the season, but for the last handful of weeks.
Last week, he did not even play the majority of the running back snaps. That never happened.
He didn't.
But if you're picking a running back that high, that can't happen. So that means that pick is not good. That pick is not good. The problem is that the high-end running backs. The problem is that the high-end running backs don't exist. There are none. It's an aging Christian McCaffrey, and that's it. The other ones are not delivering. So people are vaulting other running backs higher when they shouldn't be, leaving most wide receivers in that range as buys. pretty much all of them are for me, with the exception of Jordan Addison, who I think is not a buy. He's valued very highly and hasn't really shown why he should be.
I mean, he's been solid, but nothing ridiculously special. With Justin Jefferson back in the offense, it's not going to be there. Especially now with the Kirk Cousins Achilles tear, that's not like Kirk Cousins will probably not be the starter next year, and there's a whole quarterback controversy of who that's going to be. And at that point, Jordan Addison is not going to be a top tier asset.
It is scary if they have really Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and TJ Hawkinson all on the same team with a man quarterback. As well. It's scary. It's really scary.
And they gave Hawkinson a big extension this offseason too.
Oh, he's not going. Yeah, but
he's lost.
None of those players are going anywhere. Those three players will be there for the next 2 years.
At least.
Through 2025. So if the quarterback is not there, it's going to be a big problem.
Oh yeah, I don't know. Can I mention one more buy real quick? I think that Jonathan Mingo could be an interesting buy in Dynasty. I don't know how you feel about him, Tyler, but I liked him as a prospect coming out. I thought he was decent. I thought he was really interesting, especially with his size and speed combo. It was just his athletic ability was just ridiculous, but the production was just never there like you wanted to see in college. But it very quietly, he just had his career high in targets, receptions, and yards and fantasy points this past week. Now, with the firing of all the coaches, that's what happens the next week. Bryce Young actually made some really nice throws. And now that they're out of playoff contention, I'd imagine they're going to be like, let's see what this kid's got. Let's see what Mingo's got. Let's see if we've got to address the wide receiver room next offseason, or do we think we have our wide receiver one here? And I think they're going to give him the ball a lot. And I think he's going to be a really relevant fantasy piece for the rest of the season. And I think his value is going to shoot up. After the season's over. I like Jonathan Mingo because no one's talking about the fact that he just had potentially the best game of his career this past week. No one's talking about it at all. I've tried to
people are talking about it.
Really? You don't
think people are talking about it?
I've been searching for his name on Twitter and I'm finding very little hype. I'm finding very little, to be honest.
Well,
I'm not finding much.
Yeah, I don't spend too much time searching for things on Twitter anymore.
Yeah, I've been trying to find Mingo hype. I have not found much. I think you can still buy him pretty low in Dynasty.
I think there's been a little bit of a downgrade for Puka in terms of his overall value. Scribble says that he's one of my Dynasty buys. If you can find someone who's selling compared to where his price was 6 weeks ago, I think he's still that guy.
I really haven't lowered his price at all. So
But here we have sent the 112 for Puka just after the ripping games. It feels good to have him back and have him playing up to that level.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, I love that.
It has been a bit of a struggle with Puka lately, though. The last month and a half haven't been perfect.
It wasn't weeks 1 through 4 where he was.
It wasn't weeks 1 through 4 where he was already tearing the league apart. But the last month and a half has been very up and down. I will say but I agree that he's a solid buy.
Trade deadline coming up. Besides the running backs, obviously, who do you not want going into next year? Who are you making sure is off your team?
Ooh. I think Rachaad White might be an interesting sell in Dynasty because he's been really good for fantasy, and he's great in open space. He's great in the open field, but you notice his tackle breaking numbers when you look at him running up the middle, it just doesn't work out. When you run him up the middle in the offense, he's great in space. He's a great player in space. When you get him a screen, when you get him on the outside, he's great. But I feel like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers might add somebody that is a ground and pound kind of back that's going, and that might significantly impact Rachaad White's volume in the offense. So I'm a little worried about Rachaad White. It's not full panic mode because he's been a dominant asset, but I think you can sell that pretty high in Dynasty.
Yeah, I guess. Who do I not want going into next year? Rachaad White.
All of them.
I get it.
All of them.
Rachaad White, depends on what the value is. In terms of a player who I would definitely sell because the value is the highest it could literally possibly be is Nico Collins. There's no way that Nico Collins' value could be any higher.
That's pretty good. Yeah,
it's not going to get better. The best case scenario, which is not going to happen, but the best case scenario is that Tank Dell comes back and they add no one else. That's not going to happen. What's going to happen is that they're going to take advantage of having a very good third-round rookie wide receiver and a rookie quarterback on a cheap contract, and they're going to acquire a very expensive, very good wide receiver to add to this receiving room. That's what's going to happen. See T. Higgins or even Devontae Adams. So of that level. Mike Evans, that level. Someone that good. And I think that if I had to choose in Dynasty, I think I'd rather the player who did it immediately over the one who took 3 years to get there.
Yep.
So I'm worried about Nico Collins as a high-end asset. So if you could sell, he's going to be a wide receiver one the rest of the year. So if you might say, oh, he's young. I don't need to sell him in a rebuild. I think that this is the most he's ever going to be worth. So I'm fine moving on.
I like that.
Would you start Elijah Moore over Deontay this week?
So this week, usually I do a preview of the Thursday night game. I'm not doing that this week because I actually don't think people are so interested in that. I don't think anyone is interested in a preview of the Steelers versus the 5th grade offense.
I can't this game, man.
So I want to watch. Anyone is interested in that?
I really want to watch this game blow up.
I'm not going to watch it because
50+ point games.
Well, I'm not going to because I don't think there's
not going to, but I want it to so bad.
I took alternate over under of 17.5 points. That's where I think the line should be.
I'm going to play
plus 650.
I'm going to play Deontay Johnson. And I think it's because if I had to look, when Mitch Trubisky was in, Deontay Johnson was fine.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah. I was just about to bring that up.
And then, I don't know what it was, but Deontay Johnson needs to work on his behavior.
Yeah, that video, specifically that video of him walking
There's so
around.
many different problems.
There's a lot of videos. Yeah.
But yeah, in the 3 games last year that Mitch Trubisky started at the beginning of the season, Deontay Johnson had double-digit targets in all of them. So Mitch Trubisky has a very strong preference for Deontay Johnson over George Pickens, stronger than Kenny Pickett, who I think sees them more evenly. So that has occurred every time Mitch Trubisky has come in. So I don't think that's going to change.
Yep, I would agree.
But I have Deontay Johnson at wide receiver 32 this week. It's not like I'm running to start him.
Yeah. Elijah Moore is interesting, though, man.
Elijah Moore can't deliver. No matter how many targets he gets, he can't deliver.
Yeah.
He can't deliver. And I think that now people have seen that Joe Flacco is actually able to pass the ball. So what they're going to do is they're actually going to bring more pressure. And they're going to find a way to disrupt the rhythm that he is in. And Jacksonville is able to bring pressure. So I'm not excited. Elijah Moore has been completely ineffective. There's so much volume, done nothing with it at all.
Hasn't been able
nothing with it all season, no matter who's quarterback. He's totally ineffective. Cedric Tillman played the most snaps. I think the coaching staff thinks that Cedric Tillman is but he's done even less than Elijah Moore on his volume. I think that they were most effective when they were focusing on using David Njoku. And I think that they're going to go more toward that this week.
That's good.
I don't know if Amari Cooper is going to play. I would lean no. But I can't trust Elijah Moore. He literally has never delivered really all year.
No.
So we've got a few things from the back end of a conversation earlier. Sam Howell is somehow going to throw for 5,000 yards and simultaneously kill the relevance of every pass catcher there.
Oh, not true. Curtis Samuel's been very relevant. Totally relevant. I mean, Curtis Samuel has been relevant. Completely.
They're paying him $20 million a year, right?
Well, he's been completely relevant. I mean, he, had the most yards, the most catches. And in the games that he's played, he's averaging the most fantasy points per game between himself, Terry McLaurin, and Jahan Dotson. It's a joke. It's a joke because Sam Howell is incompetent. He's incompetent, and all he is. I think the problem is that people, just because he's Jameis Winston, but the thing is, he doesn't look like Jameis Winston, so people don't see the comparison. It's just because the body type is different, the pedigree is different, the draft capital is different. He doesn't look like Jameis Winston as a prospect, but that's what he is. There's no difference. There's no brain going on there. None. No awareness of the pocket. No awareness of how open Terry McLaurin was. How did Terry McLaurin have no receptions? Whose fault is that? It's not like he wasn't open. The numbers say that Terry McLaurin is running his routes just fine, that he's getting open, and Sam Howell is not delivering to Terry McLaurin. That needs to change, because I think everyone knows that Terry McLaurin is a better wide receiver than Curtis Samuel. But Sam Howell can't see that because he can't progress through his reads over an extended period of time. All he can do is take the read that's in front of him. He can't do anything off script, because you know what happens when he gets off script? He has no awareness of what's going on in the pocket, and that's why he's leading the leagues in sacks. You can't blame it all on the offensive line. A large percentage of these sacks are taking place after 4 seconds, 5 seconds. This is not reality. This is not how the NFL works. You don't get 5 seconds to throw the ball.
No, you don't.
The ball needs to come out in 2 to 3 seconds, but he has no awareness of that. He has no awareness of anything. And he doesn't see defenders coming. That's why there have been so many turnovers. Does not see the pass rush coming, and is totally reckless. So it shouldn't be surprising. The reason why he's had so many yards is because Eric Bieniemy is a hard ass, and he's going to run his offense no matter what quarterback he has. It's why Eric Bieniemy doesn't have a head coaching job, because Eric Bieniemy can't do anything other than run his offense, which doesn't work for this quarterback because Sam Howell is not Patrick Mahomes. This offense would be better if they ran the ball more and threw it less, because they're losing. They're losing. They're constantly turning the ball over, and it's killing them, and they don't see it. So that's the problem. Eric Bieniemy is very good with an effective quarterback. Not here. Not here. He's not effective here. He hasn't been very effective. What I think Eric Bieniemy should do is go and be the head coach in Chicago with the number 1 overall pick. And I think with Caleb Williams, who is a lot like Patrick Mahomes, goes off script all the time, does all of these things that Sam Howell cannot do, Eric Bieniemy will be very successful. But him and Sam Howell are just completely incompatible. They just cannot run the same system. It's not possible. So that's why we're having so many problems here.
So you kind of alluded to this, to the Bears taking Caleb Williams at the 1st overall pick.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Where's your favorite landing spot for Fields next year?
Atlanta. Atlanta. I mean, that's the only landing spot.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's the only landing spot that makes any sense, right? I mean, what alternative is there? What is the alternative?
Would Minnesota go after him? Would Minnesota be able to handle him?
No, but Minnesota doesn't make any sense. Minnesota makes no sense. Well, that's true. They wouldn't trade in division. But it makes no sense to go to Minnesota. It makes no sense to go to Minnesota. Atlanta makes perfect sense because Arthur Smith's plan is to run the ball. And who can execute an offense where there's a lot of running the ball and no passing down the field and a lot of running? Who's going to do well at providing another option to run? Desmond Ridder can run, but Desmond Ridder is not Justin Fields. Justin Fields is a better runner than Desmond Ridder. Justin Fields is a better passer both down the field and in short area than Desmond Ridder. They're 6-6 with Desmond Ridder. With Justin Fields, imagine Justin Fields and Bijan Robinson running an option play. Imagine that. How exciting would that be? I'm not saying that Arthur Smith. We don't like Arthur Smith.
No, it's gonna be Tyler Algier and Justin Fields. Tyler.
Not in the last game. Not in the last game. I have evidence. No, I have evidence. I have evidence. I came prepared for this. Bijan Robinson played his highest percentage of snaps.
Yeah. What about it? Yeah.
75%.
Good.
Tyler Algier only 16%. And this was not a game that they lost. This was a game that they won.
Hope that it continues.
So, but wouldn't that be exciting to see Justin Fields running the offense with Bijan Robinson? Arthur Smith, we don't like him, but I actually don't think Arthur Smith is incompetent. We just dislike him. He's bad for fantasy.
No,
and
he's not bad.
He's honestly not a terrible head coach.
No, he's not.
I will say he has a vendetta against Kyle Pitts for some reason. I don't know what that is, but there's an obvious personal problem with him and Kyle Pitts. But the way he runs the rest 100%. Of the offense is fine.
I'm interested to see how he coaches and how he play calls in a game where it's in the playoffs. Must win, week 18, week 17, when push comes.
I think Desmond Ridder is more of the problem than Arthur Smith. I think if Justin Fields were there, I think that Arthur Smith, all of a sudden, we complain that Arthur Smith does not let the players pass. But if Justin Fields were there, our complaint about the Bears is they don't let Justin Fields run. So Arthur Smith would be perfect because he would run, which is what we've been wanting for the last 3 years for the Bears to do consistently with Justin Fields. And now he'll have an offense that will allow him to do that. Wouldn't that be great? I think that would be great.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
Let's move through some stuff pretty quickly. Mitch, thank you for those questions. A lot of those are great conversation starter questions, and we can come back to if we have more time.
Well, let's go to the let's do that, and then the one after that too is also good.
Yep. I wasn't going to do the Devontae Adams, Mike Evans, because that one
that's
not good for forward thinking.
That's not going to help us. Yeah.
Austin Eckler or the 205?
205. Austin Eckler is done.
Yep.
Finished.
Yeah, he's washed.
Finished. I said this on my show, on the Takeaway show yesterday. If you told me that Austin Eckler in a year was valued to what Dalvin Cook is now, I wouldn't be surprised. Totally finished. I mean, we're talking about someone who is beyond washed up. He can't do anything. He can't do anything. I mean, how in a game against the Patriots, he offered nothing. On the ground, nothing. Through the air, nothing. I mean, he did not deliver. We're talking about someone who's averaging 3.5 yards a carry this year. And you can't blame it all on the offensive line because in the past, the thing that we loved about Austin Eckler is that he delivered even when the offense did not deliver. He delivered more when he was on the field. He was a difference maker, but he is no longer a difference maker. He looks the same running the ball as Joshua Kelly. I mean, also, the vaunted goal line success, not happening this year. Despite having more rushing attempts per game, he only has 4 touchdowns. So it's over. It's over.
Yeah, it's done.
Rest of career, Tony Pollard or Travis Etienne?
I think Tony Pollard some credit. He stepped his game up recently.
He really has.
He stepped his game up.
With Dak elevating, it's helped the offense.
It's still Travis Etienne because Travis Etienne has been great.
Yeah, it's Travis Etienne.
But Tony Pollard has stepped his game up. And I'm no longer seeing Tony Pollard as someone who's just going to vanish from existence after this year.
No, he's not.
I don't know where he's going to go. And whatever he does, wherever he goes, he's going to be a sell for me because it's an aging running back who said, already this year we had some concern. And if there's more concern, then the value is going to be gone. So I'm not going to be interested in Tony Pollard unless he's really cheap, which he won't be because he has a name.
Yep.
But we'll see. I mean, if you have Tony Pollard at his current value, it's probably just, I don't think you can get a first for Tony Pollard anymore. So you probably just ride Tony Pollard into the sunset.
Yep. Probably this way you're stuck.
The answer is Travis Etienne.
Redraft, is Zeke worth a pickup?
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
He's the number 1 pickup.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
If he's out there.
Absolutely. There's no comparison. I mean, this week on Thursday night against Pittsburgh, I have him at running back 28, but there are brighter days. Like, this is the worst case scenario. It's one of the best. It's a rushing defense that scares me.
The rest of the season schedule for the Patriots is great when you look at running back matchups.
Yeah, this is a bad matchup, but there are better matchups. Yeah, there are better matchups coming up. You know.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, what's next? Next is, after that is Kansas City. I mean, it's not the best. I mean, Kansas City, Denver, and Buffalo. None of those are exciting, but I think this is the worst.
Buffalo's actually been pretty bad against the run.
No, they're the best of the bunch. Yeah, they're the best of the bunch. And the Broncos are fine. The Steelers are the worst. The Steelers on the road on Thursday night are the worst matchup.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
I do think Zeke will be more of a mid RB2. I would like to see how much of the workload he actually gets. Like, does he get 90% of the snaps, or do they use some nobody in 40% of the snaps and he only gets 60?
Yeah, that'll be
this
really
year. Essentially, no other running back on the Patriots has played at all. So the question is, what do they do now that the starter has gone down?
I mean, it didn't really seem like anybody else was playing after Ramondre left. I mean, Zeke got like the bulk of the carries. The rest.
It's different when it happens during a game. When it happens
during
a game, you're not prepared. You're not prepared to have someone else do it. But
that's very true.
Going into the week, what will their preparation be? So that's something I'm very interested in. Does he get 60% of touches, 70%, 80%? What percentage is it?
So, Michael Pittman and QJ or Travis Etienne in Dynasty?
Pittman and QJ. I'd rather have Pittman over Etienne by himself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd agree.
He's a huge sell for me this offseason. I feel like his value would take the first hit of QB changes coming this offseason.
Yeah, absolutely.
Essentially, unless we've really never seen Jefferson, Addison, and Hawkinson all produce at the same time. And that was with Kirk Cousins. So someone's going to suffer. I think it's TJ Hawkinson more than Jordan Addison if I had to choose. But I think Jordan Addison will suffer a little.
There was one game. Every single pass catcher on the Vikings scored a touchdown, except for Justin Jefferson, but he still had like 12 catches for like 150 yards.
I remember that game.
Cost me like $200.
Oh no!
The one leg of my parlay that I was missing was Jefferson touchdown.
Oh boy!
And he fumbled in the end zone. It was that game.
But anyway,
that game! Oh my goodness!
The point of this is that once the change happens, he'll become a buy. I have no Jordan Addison, so
I don't have much of him either.
Mitch asks, a couple weeks ago, I asked where we ranked CJ Stroud. Heat check following up that question. Is he firmly ahead of Herbert and Lawrence now? 4, 5, 6?
Yep.
I have Stroud at 4.
Yeah, Stroud at 4.
If you had Stroud, honestly, if you had Stroud at 1, I'm fine with it.
Ooh. I don't know if I could do that yet, but 4 is the answer for me.
I think most people have him at 4.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now with Burrow injured. If Burrow was injured, I think he'd be 5.
Winning in week for me.
I mean, Burrow was healthy. Sorry. If Burrow was healthy, I think I'd put him at 5. But Burrow's gone, so you got to put him at 4.
And then with the Lawrence injury, he's clearly ahead of there.
Lawrence is not in the same. Lawrence is not in the same class of upside as Stroud.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
Lawrence and Herbert are similar. They're in the group of young and very good, which is worth a lot, but not elite.
Mitch, thank you for this question. It's a great question for the Patreon, especially with dissecting your roster. We appreciate it, but
Mitch is a patron, by the way.
Yeah.
So I
figured he was. Yes.
Yeah. You have the opportunity to ask that one. But this is interesting. I'm not sure it would have changed all that much, but I think they have a shot at the playoffs now. They're in the playoffs now, aren't they? They are currently in the playoffs.
They're currently in the playoffs. I think either way, you're looking at a playoff Colts, even if Richardson was there or Minshew, doesn't matter.
They've gotten a little lucky. I will say so many injuries have occurred to other teams.
Yeah.
You know, they've gotten a little lucky, but they beat Baltimore. They beat Baltimore. I will give them that. And they beat Houston early in the season.
Yep.
So those were impressive. You know, you play what you're scheduled. You know, they beat Tennessee twice. Carolina and New England are 4 of their wins. Tampa Bay was another of them at home.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, they've been good. But, you know, the Colts they have a bright future. If they can make their defense better and build around Richardson on his rookie contract, and Richardson actually comes back and plays well.
Yeah,
and
that's
finishes
a
the game.
really bright future for the Colts.
That would be nice. Yeah, finishing a game would be good.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Do we still hate James Cook?
He's overrated. I mean, it's the kind of thing where like a running back why would I draft James Cook at his price when I could have, I don't know, like Gus Edwards, who's not going to produce that differently, but it costs me nothing. Why would I draft James Cook? He's never going to produce RB1 numbers. So those middling running backs, I mean, I beg people, don't draft Cam Akers. Don't draft J.K. Dobbins. Now they got hurt, but you felt it. You felt it because running backs get hurt all the time. And you felt it because you spent premium capital on players where if there's one injury, they lose all of their value and never get it back. So that's why we don't want to spend on those middling running backs. Honestly, James Cook is so low that I'm not even sure I would consider him in that group, but he is for other people. So I'll have none of him. He's probably actually the one I like the least of players in that group. To give you some examples of what I would call middling running backs right now, players I'll have none of this offseason. Kenneth Walker, Rachaad White, Isaiah Pacheco, DeAndre Swift. Big problem with DeAndre Swift. Big problem. He hasn't delivered at all. Now, this last game, I would, if you have a chance to move DeAndre Swift, it's a little off topic, but I would look to do that. We fell to a miserable 42% of snaps, totally ineffective. Totally ineffective. It's not going to look better this week.
Yeah, it started hot and it slowly started to fade a little bit.
Big problem for DeAndre Swift. So I'm not interested in him. Isaiah Pacheco's on that list. And James Cook is the worst of them all. So the answer is yes, because he is the least upside.
I think
he's just never going to see the full-time role.
I think it's very clear that the Bills, they tried to add Leonard Fournette, it didn't work. I think it's very clear that the Bills need to add a actual RB2 to the team. They had one who was fine. And they let him walk for no reason. Like, if they had just signed Devin Singletary to the $3 million contract that the Texans did, they'd be better off than they are now.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
And they didn't. They waste. Why?
They'd be a playoff team right now.
Yeah, I agree with that. Because they wouldn't have had to be relying on Latavius Murray in situations. Like, yes, running backs don't matter, but $3 million is actually that's on a 1-year deal is not risking anything. There's no risk. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. It's $3 million on a 1-year deal in the NFL. Like there's no risk. I mean, the veteran minimum for players like that is $1 million. I mean, you're not talking about that much more to have someone who's effective in that position. So, and you know what they could do? They could just re-sign Devin Singletary. Correct their wrong. They're going to add somebody significant. Because it's clear that James Cook is a fine player who deserves some touches in the NFL. Fine player.
He's a really good athlete. He's fast, but he's just not he's not built to be a
He's
NFL
not one of the best 25 running backs in the league, and he's probably one of the best 35 running backs in the league, somewhere between 25 and 35, which means he should be in a committee.
Very fair.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So the answer
good
is
news is there may be a sell window still in the offseason.
I doubt it. I doubt it.
I think people will get off on and get on a
Leonard Fournette is about to be activated. And then when Leonard Fournette is the starter, I don't think there's going to be a sell window.
We'll see. I think there'll be some small window.
This also, I will warn you, this coaching staff is going to be fired. This Sean McDermott is totally not delivered. I mean, he has not delivered, right? I mean, if they don't make the playoffs, which they're not going to, Sean McDermott is going to be fired. And if Sean McDermott is fired, then who knows what the new, you saw that in Houston. Dameon Pierce under the old coaching staff was the workhorse starter. And then this new coaching staff is like, we don't really like Dameon Pierce. We're just going to move on. It's James Cook doesn't have like a right to the backfield. They can just move on. And if there's a new coaching staff, who knows what it's going to look like.
Rebuilders trying to buy Higgins from me.
Why would you sell Higgins now? Why would you sell Higgins now? This is like the lowest his value. Like, how could it get worse for his value?
You couldn't get worse.
People cannot. Okay, T. Higgins is someone where people cannot evaluate T. Higgins rationally. Like, they're just mad that he burned them. Like, it doesn't matter that T. Higgins is really talented or this and that. Like, it doesn't matter anymore. Like, he's just gotten to the point of, like, people don't like him. And that means that people don't want to draft him. So, yeah. He's having a down year. It happens. I think he's going to be out. I used to think that he was still going to be in Cincinnati. I no longer think that that's the case. Like, I think Cincinnati is like, is T. Higgins worth $20 million a year? Probably. Is he the best use of $20 million a year for Cincinnati? Probably not.
No, they could move on and be fine.
Yeah.
They can make it work.
And that's what I think they're going to do. I think that it might be via a tag and trade, but I think, which would be interesting, but I think that that's something that might happen. And I think that T. Higgins could find himself in a bad situation, potentially. I mean, one of the teams most interested in trading for him would be Carolina.
Yeah, that could be bad. That could be bad. Well, I mean, it might not be bad if Bryce Young takes a step forward.
I don't know.
It wouldn't be bad.
I mean, at the end of the day, even with Joe Burrow, with Jamar Chase there, T. Higgins' ceiling, I think we learned is like wide receiver 15. So there is upside being the one, even on a much worse offense.
So this question, short of it's a question, but I think it's
a ridiculous question.
It's a ridiculous question.
It's a ridiculous question.
No, it won't.
I have no concerns. And, there were these mysterious character concerns with CJ Stroud, and I don't think that's proven to be a problem. So, no concerns whatsoever. Caleb Williams is not Johnny Manziel. Like, Caleb Williams is a little strange. Like, that is a fair assessment. He is a little strange, but that doesn't mean that he can't play quarterback in the NFL. I mean, there are a lot of people. I mean, Tom Brady is strange too.
Can someone tell me when a projected number
one? Very strange, and that's not stopping him.
Anyone tell me the last time the projected number one overall pick played in a bowl game that wasn't the college football playoff?
No, they never do. They never do.
It's a glorified exhibition.
I don't care about it all.
That's what I hate about college football, because people think bowl games is everything. Bowl games don't mean shit. If you're an NFL
games
prospect,
are totally irrelevant.
You are sitting out
national championship,
and that's been the norm for the last 10 years. If it's not for the title, you're sitting out. There is no reason for him to go out there and risk someone rolling him up or hip drop tackling him.
Yeah, I think he's going to be the number one overall pick. People saying that he's not going to be are crazy. I would say I would much rather that Caleb Williams goes to Chicago than New England.
Fair.
Yeah.
And I think I think the character concerns.
It's not going to be Chicago with Matt Eberflus. Matt Eberflus is going to be fired. I actually think Matt Eberflus is going to be fired the day after the season.
Yeah, he'll be fired quickly.
That Tuesday morning. I think one of the things we'll see with Caleb Williams is his character concerns, him painting his nails, crying after the game, is going to keep coming up in the news cycle until the NFL draft, because there's nothing else to talk about with his actual on the field game.
Yeah.
And because he's been such a clear-cut number one overall pick for over a year, they have to talk something to keep the engagement as we lead up into the NFL draft. Mm-hmm.
And if they don't, one thing about Caleb Williams, though.
Thank you, ESPN, for that.
What I do not see working is Caleb Williams and Bill Belichick is not going to work.
No, that won't work.
That's not going to work.
That will not work. Yeah, if he gets drafted to the Patriots, I'm scared.
I think that there's actually a possibility that if the Patriots get the number one overall pick, that Caleb Williams could just refuse to play there. And then we would have some drama. I do think that's possible. I don't think he would refuse to play in Chicago. If they have a new head coach, maybe if they bring Matt Eberflus back, Caleb Williams, I will say the one thing about Caleb Williams is I don't think he's afraid to say, I just don't want to play for this team. Nope. I just don't. Nope. I don't want to play there.
Not afraid at
I'll
all.
sit out
No.
for the entire year. I don't care. You trade the pick. I'm not coming. I'm not showing up. I'm not going to play for you. So you have to trade the pick because I'm not going to play for you. I do think he is the first prospect in a long time where I think that is a realistic discussion.
He kind of has that power. I mean, he does
because he's good enough of a prospect, but also Trevor Lawrence had that power, but that's not who Trevor Lawrence is.
No.
I don't think this is a bad thing. It's just like Eli Manning did it too. And so did John Elway. And they both ended up having great careers. So it's not, it takes a type of, how do I call this? Outwardly self-interested person. Now, I would be very hypocritical to say that's a bad trait because that's the kind of person I am. You know, I'm like that too. I'm someone who's not afraid to say that I'm willing to do things that are self-interested. And I don't pretend that I'm not that way. I mean, we know that. You know, this is something that I'm comfortable with that. So as someone who also feels that way, I understand that he's the kind of person who might use his leverage in a way that, you know, causes a shakeup at the top of the draft. But we'll have to see. I do worry about him going to New England. I don't think that's actually going to happen.
And we can remind people of the fact that he wanted a stake in whatever team drafts him. He wants to be there for, it sounds like, for the rest of wherever he goes. Although that's not actually
allowed.
legal.
That's not allowed. Yeah, he can want
not.
that all he wants, but Roger Goodell will never allow that.
No.
Yeah. Anyway, all that to say, I think he wants wherever he goes to be where he is. And he wants to be invested in that city.
I think as of now, the most likely outcome is that Chicago has the number 1 overall pick. I mean, Carolina would have to win a game. And they have at New Orleans and at Jacksonville on the schedule. Games against Atlanta and Green Bay, who are fighting for playoff spots. And then the last week against Tampa Bay. So New England still has a home game against the Jets on the schedule.
Oh, my God. That's going to be so bad.
Yeah, put that game in the snow or something, and it's gonna be wonderful football.
So the most likely outcome is that Caleb Williams goes to the Bears.
Mm-hmm. So Scribble says in his friends league, guy sent projected 101 for Kenny Pickett last week. League is deteriorating. This has to be vetoed, right?
Never veto.
Never veto.
But
that's ridiculous.
But I would look into this. Because this screams collusion. So I would do a little investigation. I would have a subpoena for those text messages. A little subpoena.
Yeah.
If you need like an attorney or something, I know a guy.
Yeah. If you need an attorney, one will be appointed to you by the state.
Yeah, this is definitely. You don't veto, but I would definitely look into this.
Yeah, this sounds like collusion.
Okay.
So
yeah, this sounds like collusion. Yeah.
Now, collusion is hard to prove.
It is,
but it's very hard to prove it, and that's the thing that's tough. Is these things like?
But it's also very hard to prove this is not collusion.
Are there situations where?
Except the person who made this trade was drunk or was doing collusion.
Are there situations where someone likes someone else in the league and gives them a better deal than they might someone else because they like them? Yes. At what point does that become collusion? It's very gray area. You kind of have to have it in writing. Something along the lines of like, I know this isn't the best for me, but I'm going to do it anyway. Collusion is very, very hard to prove.
Did they have other first round picks that they meant to send instead of that pick that was the 101? They did it by
mistake. Then
why are they so adamant on this trade happening when the league blows up, saying, "Hey, this isn't right"?
Yeah. If they did
why is the guy giving up the 101 okay with this?
Yeah,
there has to be some motive there.
You can ask. One of the ways to see is like ask the person who made the trade, like, you know. Why did you do this? Why did you think this was a good trade for you? And see what they say.
Yeah, that's a good question to ask.
But, you know, I will say, like, there is more collusion than people think. And it's very hard to prove.
Until people tell on themselves.
Yeah. But like, do I give people I like a better price on trades than people I don't? Yeah, probably. Is that collusion? No, but if you expand like 2 steps on that, then it is. So you kind of see how I generally, if I were ever commissioned, I don't want to be. I generally say it's not collusion unless you can prove it. And it's impossible to prove. Usually. So I usually say I have to let it go.
Yeah, there's some managers that I'm just like, you try to screw me too many times in the past, I'm going to nickel and dime you on every single trade. And there's other managers where I'm just going to send out an offer and
there was an example in our league where someone tried to do a trade with me, and I was like, well, I find that insulting, and now I'm just not going to trade with you anymore. And if you want to trade with me, it's going to cost extra.
Yep.
That's not collusion.
You block someone in the league, and they never see your chat messages again, and you're just
well, I did that too. Those are actually 2 separate.
I'm talking about things I've done as well. I've been like, I'm not going to. That person's team is dead to me.
That's not collusion.
They don't exist.
That's the other extreme of this.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
All right.
At the end of the day, fantasy football is a game played amongst people. So there's going to be drama amongst people like there is in anything else. And that's not avoidable.
Yeah.
There are going to be things that are unfair. In the Trade Addicts bylaws, it even says not every trade will be fair. And I think that's a great thing to put in your bylaws. Not every trade will be fair. Expecting every trade to be fair is ridiculous. There are going to be unfair trades. It will happen. You know, a trade that looked unfair for one party one week could look unfair in favor of the other party the next week. We can't be the fair police, you know? So that's one thing I don't ever want to be in the business of doing, is being the police of fairdom. That I'm not doing, ever. Because imagine if you had traded, like, Puka Nacua for Jaden Reed before week 1. Everyone would have been like, oh, Jaden Reed, 2nd-round pick, worth much more. And then 2 weeks later, it would be like, well, that looks like collusion in the other direction. So that's, we can't have that. Like, we can't, like, get into, was this fair? Like, we can't get into that.
Yeah.
All right. Snag Kareem Hunt next year. Maybe the Bills do that. Anything
Well, wait a minute. I didn't say this, but if someone had CJ Stroud 1, it would be fine. I don't see that as strange.
Yeah.
But yeah, I still have Mahomes 1. Mahomes, I'm a little concerned though. I will say they better fix it.
They gotta get the receivers, man.
They better fix it. They can't just redo what we have this year. That's not going to work. They better fix it. And if they don't, I'd consider moving Mahomes off of number 1.
It's a matter of MVS teaching the team not to catch the ball.
Yeah, but they got to fix it. If they don't fix it, I'm going to consider making a move.
Yeah, Mahomes right now is only it's like QB 8 or 9.
No, Mahomes has been. I said this at week 1, and everyone was like, "You're delusional. You're crazy." And maybe I wasn't crazy.
You know,
Go ahead. Kareem Hunt. Yeah. Kareem he's looked okay.
Yeah,
he played what, 3 games?
Kareem Hunt's the kind of thing where if he realizes what he is and he's willing to play for $2 million a year, he can play for 5 more years, just like Latavius Murray has. If he thinks that he's worth $5-6 million a year, then he's gonna sit on his couch.
Yep. 12-team Superflex PPR best ball already clinched into the playoffs. Got offered Brees and Swift for Lamar.
Ooh.
It is a dynasty league, so he's already
Brees and Swift for Lamar and Superflex. We can't do that. Lamar
Superflex.
easily.
No.
Yep. Lamar.
Sure. Dynasty Superflex. It's Lamar.
Yeah, it's not even close. Brees Hall has been the league's worst running back in success rate over the last 5 years.
He already has Lamar. Yeah, just keep what you have. Your league mates trying to get you.
Horrible.
Yeah.
And I don't know whose fault that is.
I didn't realize it was a dynasty league at first.
Yeah, once I realized it was Dynasty League, He's got Lamar, Tua, and Kyler.
Even if it were in a dynasty league, I'd still prefer Lamar.
Yeah, keep what you got. Write it out.
Brees has been so bad. And I don't think people realize how bad he's been.
So speaking of Ravens, who are we starting between Gus Edwards and Keaton Mitchell?
The ECR is completely out of its mind when I loaded it up for the first time this week. It has Gus Edwards at 23 and Keaton Mitchell at 34. That's just wrong.
That's crazy.
It's wrong. Yeah, it's just wrong. Keaton Mitchell played more.
Yeah, Mitchell's snaps have gone up each of the last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Gus Edwards has gone down.
He doubled up Edwards and snaps the last time.
Yep, they were last time.
I think that the goal line work still belongs to Gus Edwards.
Yeah, so belongs to Gus. That'd be it.
Yeah. So I have Keaton Mitchell at RB 29 and Gus Edwards at RB 33. So I would play Keaton Mitchell.
Yeah, it's Keaton Mitchell.
It's not a great matchup though. Like playing against the Rams is not exciting.
No, it's not fun.
Like I'm not excited for the Rams. And there's a lot of good there are a lot of good running back plays this week. And Keaton Mitchell, while I do like him, is still probably going to see around 45% of the snaps. Like we're not even talking
48 he saw 48 in his most recent game.
Yeah, 40. So 45 to 50 then.
Yeah,
that's a fair range.
Sense, yeah.
So
fair.
And Gus Edwards will see less, and Justice Hill still gets mixed in. That's the part that I really dislike is these 30% of snaps that Justice Hill is playing and doing nothing. Yeah. That's what's really hurting us for fantasy.
So Mitch says that
if Justice Hill didn't play, I would have Keaton Mitchell like at RB 24 and Gus Edwards at like RB 29. But because Justice Hill plays, I got to bump him down 5 spots each.
Yep.
It's in the league rules. 5 spots because of Justice Hill. Mitch says you hate my questions. I get it. Mitch,
I don't think so.
No, I love your questions. I think you have a lot of really good questions, and I'd love to sit down and have a beer and talk about those questions. Just there's a lot, and we want to make sure that we keep focused. Because like even this post was 10 minutes ago. Your other questions were from 35 minutes ago. I want to get to questions that are coming in before people turn off the channel because we didn't answer the questions.
That's true.
I appreciate the questions, Mitch. It gives us something to talk about. It gives us some way to move forward.
And if we don't talk about them, we blame it on Patrick.
Yep.
Perfect.
Good question. Yep. He agrees with you, Mitch. That's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
Are there 2 Kenny Pickett's?
Yeah.
That's
Kenny Pickett. Yeah. I'm not a huge fan of his work.
Speaking of Mitch, so he does have another question for us. What is our favorite Christmas present we have ever received?
I don't even celebrate Christmas.
Oh my goodness.
I got a guitar one year.
You know what my favorite Christmas present I've ever received is? The fact that like 2 of the last 3 years it's been 60 degrees on Christmas. That's been my favorite.
You know who's the worst Christmas Day gift giver ever? Michael fucking Crabtree. Christmas Day, needing 1.2 points from him on Christmas Day to win my league. And you know what he does?
What?
Fucking goose egg. F you, Michael Crabtree.
You want me to send him a strongly worded email?
Go for it. Talk to his manager. Actually, send it to his mother. That was the worst Christmas present I ever received.
Wasn't Alvin Kamara's 6 touchdown game?
Yeah, he had 6 touchdowns.
Yeah, I won a title on the back of that.
That was 2021.
Actually, multiple titles on the back of that.
Yeah, that was 2021. I had Kamara all over my teams that year.
Yeah.
He was all over the place for me. Yeah, that was good. That was good.
I had Kamara in a Dynasty league. It shows how long ago it was.
Hutch, do you agree with us? Hurts is QB1 now?
For Dynasty,
I have him at 2.
For me, it's between him and Josh Allen. I think it's between him and Josh Allen for me, and I would take Hurts, to be honest. I would take Hurts, but it's so close. Like I don't mind having Stroud, Mahomes, Allen, or Hurts at 1. Any of those guys, if you take them at 1, I'm totally cool. They're all in the same tier for me.
I love
this. And if Burrow was healthy, he'd be there too.
I tried trading Chris Olave, Jared Goff, and Pacheco for Kamara and Tank Dell. The league vetoed it because they said that it was unfair, and now I'm very happy they vetoed it because the Tank got hurt.
What part of that is unfair?
I don't know. I've seen
when was this ever unfair?
This is not unfair.
This is redraft, I guess. And when would this have been unfair?
But it's just
I
one of
don't
those.
understand.
This is stupid. This is why we don't do this. This is why we don't become the fair police. Yeah, we're not doing that.
I had a 5-for-5 trade one year.
You know what's even worse? Not when the commissioner vetoes, but when there's a league vote. That's even worse.
I want to see who was voting
worse.
Records. I want to subpoena people's
the
voting
worst
records
is when
on
it's a
vetoes.
secret ballot. It's a secret ballot.
You can't even
vote.
stand on. You can't even stand on it.
See who voted for to veto it. It's just a secret ballot of veto.
I had a 5-for-5 trade where one of my few redraft trades where the next week, by 7 days later, 3 of the players on the other side, the side that I gave away, were on IR. One was suspended indefinitely, and the other one was benched. It was absolute chaos, and I got like I sent Sammy Watkins and Josh Gordon and a few other pieces, and all at the same time, the entire other side fell apart. And the guy's like, "It was a fair trade when I accepted it. No harm, no foul. What you got to do? Got to move on." Assuming Williams is a Bear, does that not devalue Fields? What can the Bears get for him?
Well, I think the Bears, I think that around the NFL still sees Justin Fields as a lower end starter.
Yeah, I think the thing
but
is,
still a clear starter.
Yes.
if the Bears draft Williams, because sometimes, when you see a lot of teams draft quarterbacks at the top of the draft, it's like we're completely replacing who we had. This is our guy. This is our only guy. I think that when they're drafting Williams, it's just like, look, Justin Fields is fine, but this is Caleb Williams we're talking about. Like, this is just like, this is a whole different level.
You've been
good for us. You flash things this year, but like Caleb Williams is just a different being. Like, we have to have
There's
him.
only one free agent quarterback who's going to be a starter, and that's Kirk Cousins. So,
Yes.
but
Yeah,
there are
assuming his
multiple
Achilles injury
teams
recovery goes well.
that need quarterbacks. I still think Atlanta is at the top of the list.
Yep.
In that they're probably not going to have access to a top quarterback in the draft. And even if they did, they'd be backing into it. They're so late in the draft that they're not going to know that they're going to have one. So they're definitely at the top of the list. But other than Atlanta, there aren't that many destinations really for Justin Fields. That is the one thing. Atlanta is like very high on that list. But other than Atlanta, where else could he really go? Like the Bears assuming the Bears and the Patriots are 1 and 2 and they add quarterbacks, where else could Fields go?
Could he go to Vegas?
Yeah, Vegas is on the list for sure.
Yeah.
They're not really a fit. Like the offensive weapons don't fit, but they could have a completely new coaching staff.
Their coach is already gone. They can bring in whatever they want to.
I don't know if Antonio Pierce is in consideration for the long-term job. Probably not. But he has done a good job.
They seem to like him.
Yeah, I think he's done a good job. So
yeah, he's done a good job.
We're also talking
really
about
like
a Raiders team who would be like trading Devontae Adams away. Like,
yeah.
So, I mean, the Buccaneers are an option.
The Buccaneers are an option if they don't want to move with Baker Mayfield.
Are we saying costs looking like a second-round pick? Because he's already 3 years. He's 3 years into his contract already.
Yeah. I mean,
you've
that's
got the
what
fifth-year
Sam Darnold
option.
cost.
Fifth. So, second sounds good. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe a small piece on top.
Maybe the destinations are thin though. But the thing is, the Bears will know that they're in this situation from the beginning of the offseason. They're gonna have what they're not gonna do is hold on to Justin. If they're gonna trade Justin Fields, they're gonna do it very early.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're gonna get rid of him.
And teams want every additional day with their new franchise quarterback.
Yeah.
I
think the Falcons are high on the list, but I don't think there's going to be as much like quarterback vacancies as there was. I mean, really, who has a vacancy? Like The Bears and the Patriots are going to have vacancies, but they're going to be filled by the quarterbacks in the draft.
Yeah, it's weird. Like I feel like this year, a couple of the quarterbacks that we didn't expect to do good actually did good. Like Sam Howell, Jordan Love, we were both like really down on them. Like a lot of us really down on them. It didn't really.
Yeah, like I'm
they
looking
both
at a
have really
potential.
impressed to the point where they're probably gonna be the starter next year.
Giants.
I think there are some teams.
Giants
that
are
could,
a good team for an open hole, but the thing is they're paying Daniel Jones $40 million a year.
Yeah, so there's quite a few teams who could add a quarterback, but not via trade. Like the Giants, the Giants and the Seahawks could add quarterbacks, but there's probably going to come in the draft, not in any sort of trade. The Commanders as well, probably going to come potentially in the draft if they chose to replace it. But the only teams with like pure vacancies are the Vikings, the Falcons, the Raiders, and the Vikings, the Falcons, the Raiders, and the Buccaneers have like total vacancies and are not the Bears and the Patriots who have that spot at the top. So two of those places are probably going to be filled by Kirk Cousins and Justin Fields. And then there's like two spots left over for rookies. I mean, there are other guys who Baker Mayfield is in the mix, I would say.
Yeah. Do you think a team would give a chance to Minshew after the way he's played?
No, I don't think so. I think
I would agree. I would agree as well. I don't think a team gives him a chance, but
I think Minshew is someone who actually the Patriots could sign if they end up with Drake May and don't want to start Drake May day one. The Patriots could sign Minshew.
Could.
The Colts could just sign Minshew back. I don't think Minshew is going to get like a real starting job.
I mean, he almost beat out Trevor Lawrence.
Minshew could sign. I could see him signing in like Tampa Bay as a placeholder with the idea that they're probably going to try to draft a rookie.
Yeah, you could do that.
Yeah. All right. Please get those questions in. Last chance. We're getting ready to close down the chat.
Mm-hmm.
For a full PPR flex spot, should I go Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, or Brandon Cooks?
Oh, that's so gross. I have Breece Hall at running back 18, Garrett Wilson at wide receiver 20, Brandon Cooks I have way below consensus. I have him at 33. So I'm going to go Breece Hall. Just because Breece Hall can't be taken down by the bad offense in the same way. The downside risk is a little lower. The touches are going to be there. Where was Garrett Wilson, you're not guaranteed to have the touches in the same way. So I'm going to go Breece Hall. Barely. Very close between him and Garrett Wilson.
I'm leaning Garrett Wilson, but I'm not going to fault you.
Because the thing is, Hall's been bad, but when you actually look at his fantasy points,
running back's just more likely to fall into the end zone than a receiver.
I have Josh Allen in a Superflex QB Dynasty. How long can I rely on him?
10 more years. I am not concerned about Josh Allen.
No, yeah.
We'll see. We'll probably see a downgrade in his rushing at some point, but
Josh Allen is good enough that if he didn't run and became a pocket passer, he could still stand on his own.
Yeah, he'd be fine.
Yep.
Yeah.
Not as good, but he'd be fine.
Taysom Hill is messing me up. I'm tempted to put him in the flex over Gus and Mitchell because of the split. Also, Taysom might get QB play if Carr is hurt.
I would.
Ferguson and
I would
Taysom
put Taysom in the flex over Gus or Mitchell. I would.
Mm-hmm. If the 49ers got a 4 for Lance, the Bears should probably get a 2.
Yeah, the thing is the Bears will have the advantage of being able to make the move at the beginning of the offseason, so they'll get more.
Mm-hmm. Seattle and Rams could be good. I just looked at Stafford's contract. There's not really
the Rams are completely committed to Matthew Stafford. The Seahawks, Geno Smith played decently in the last game. I think the Seahawks, it's the kind of thing where, like, if they had a better option, they'd probably move on from Geno Smith. They're not going to, so they're probably going to be sticking with Geno Smith. But I could easily see, right now they're picking 15th. My guess is they go into the draft. They don't add anyone before the draft, anyone of significance. They go into the draft saying, if we like a guy there, we'll take him. Yeah. Probably we won't, in which case we won't add anyone major at quarterback. But I think that's their thinking.
All right. Saints need Jaden Daniels. Maybe.
Yeah. Derek Carr, I will say, is like, he's even lower than Geno Smith in that I think
Oh yeah, definitely.
the Saints are not satisfied sticking with Derek Carr, but probably will because they literally have to.
What was the worst quarterback signing? Daniel Jones or Derek Carr?
Derek Carr.
It's probably Derek Carr.
Because you could have gotten the same production from Jameis Winston for nothing.
Yep. I mean, to be fair, Tommy DeVito.
There's no difference between Derek Carr and Andy Dalton last year. I mean, there's no difference. So essentially, they just wasted their money. They got nothing out of it.
We talked about this a little bit. Stafford can't. He would have to retire.
He's not retiring. I don't know why people are saying that Matthew Stafford is retiring. If he got hurt again, maybe. But right now, aren't the Rams a playoff team? Oh no, they're tied for the playoffs.
They're in the hunt. They're there.
Yeah, they're in a 4-way tie for the wild card spots. But Matthew Stafford is not retiring unless he doesn't want to play football. But in terms of his skills, he's fine. He's clearly not injured. So he's only 36 in February. Now, most quarterbacks start to decline at 36. At 37, it starts to go down, but he has not shown the decline yet. So unfortunately, someone's always left holding the bag for that last year of the old quarterback. But there's no way out of this. If Matthew Stafford wants to be the Rams quarterback in 2024, he will be the Rams quarterback in 2024.
Yep.
And I think he does as of now.
I mean, I wouldn't want to stay at home with Kelly Stafford all the time. She's annoying. Annoying as hell.
Oh. Wow.
Sorry, I live in Michigan. I saw enough Kelly Stafford on commercials and shit. She's annoying.
A strong statement.
Damian Pierce or James Cook rest of career?
Cook.
Yeah, Cook.
I'm here all day. You can shoot me down all you want.
I appreciate you being here all day more than anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah. Appreciate you.
Back to Vegas. I'd take as many picks as I could for Adams and let Antonio get that ring.
It is the kind of thing where I feel like they basically, even though it's bad for their cap, I feel like they basically have to trade Devontae Adams because you're talking about a really good 31-year-old wide receiver who's going to be heading into a complete rebuild.
Yep.
So sometimes you got to do things that aren't best for your cap.
Steelers could use Minshew or Baker.
No, Mitch Trubisky is under a pretty sizable contract to be the backup. I don't think they're going to be going in another direction.
And sadly, they're not going to move past Pickett.
No, they're not. They're happy with Pickett.
Not.
They're going to run all of this back next year. As sad as it is.
Yeah,
I think it's a little bit like the Giants of 2022. They won a lot of close games. Jones. They weren't actually very good. And then, this is their 2022. And next year, I think they're going to pay the price. And they're going to see how bad Kenny Pickett really is.
Yep. Just good enough to let the defense win games.
That's what I said, yeah.
And hopefully they have a little bit better offense next year and they can put up 20 points a game and they could win 12 games.
Yeah.
As we've seen with the trade offer for Pickett, the Steelers are set.
He's not horrible, but he reminds me a little bit of Mac Jones in that he's just not, he is plus at nothing. He's just okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And when the situation goes away from, you saw the situation as Mac Jones' career progressed, went away from him. He went from good to terrible. I think if anything ever goes wrong, Kenny Pickett is really, really bad. So, yeah.
As soon as Mac Jones had to stop playing just Alabama football where guys are schemed wide open, he's just throwing the ball and playing catch, the game became way too fast for Mac Jones.
Yeah, I do think that I feel bad for Mac Jones. I think if Mac Jones had gone to a different situation, I think he could have succeeded. But I think he's one of those careers that is a what might have been.
He could have done what Purdy's doing.
I think that in a vacuum, Mac Jones is a more talented quarterback than Brock Purdy, but we'll never find out.
No, we'll never find that out.
Give CMC, get Tank Dell and Puka. I have a playoff spot, but you don't like your chances?
Dynasty value is on the Puka side.
Okay.
Dynasty value.
Yeah, that's got to be Dynasty. I was going into redraft playoffs.
Yeah.
Give me CMC.
Well, redraft, who cares about Dell? I mean, Dell's a cut.
Yeah. Oh yeah, duh. Yeah, duh.
Yeah.
Mike Tomlin greater than Bill Belichick?
Yeah, I mean, nowadays, yes. I mean, Mike Tomlin has translated his game to the modern NFL a lot better. Bill Belichick, the GM, is the problem, though, more than Bill Belichick, the head coach.
Yep, that's what it is.
Moral of the story, don't let Bills be your GM. No Bill
No.
O'Brien, no Bill Belichick.
Oh, God. Bill O'Brien was even worse.
Oh my
Got a
god.
second-round pick for
Remember
DeAndre
the DeAndre Hopkins trade? Yeah.
That was just one of many horrible things.
Yeah. And then get rid of Watt. Also going to Arizona.
Yeah.
He cut Watt. He didn't even trade him.
Cut Watt. Yeah, I know. He didn't even trade him. He cut him.
What a joke.
It's 9:00 on the East Coast.
Yeah.
We're all East Coast.
Let's we'll wrap this up. So I appreciate everyone for asking those questions. If you made it to the end, make sure you like the video, leave a comment below, and also subscribe to the channel and hit that notifications bell so you can be notified about my future content. If you watch this video, give it a couple. If you haven't watched it yet, give it a couple more views so it gets over 1,000. It'll be my first ever regular video to go over 1,000 views. So I appreciate that. And other than that, keep watching for my Dynasty videos throughout the week. And appreciate Patrick and Hutch for being here. And I will see you all later. Peace.